Hi, everyone. I'm Larry Buckland, pastor at Suncrest United Methodist Church, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Rev Rambles On. I have Mark Markle with me, and we are looking forward to sharing another episode with you. How are you doing today, Mark?
I'm doing really well. I have a bunch of stuff going on. As I said earlier, I'm doing my taxes, but it should go quickly.
I still need to do mine, unfortunately, too, Mark. So here we are. I say every year this is not going to happen.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean.
But here I am.
Me too.
Few days before, but I'll get it done.
Okay, ready to start?
I'm ready.
So this is the last in the series of sermons in this sequence, and we won't say goodbye to Peter. We'll see Peter again, but it's a reminder of how much of us is in Peter's way he deals with and understands Jesus. A couple of things that came out of this sermon that struck me that I'd like to talk about. One was you asked in the sermon, when was the first time Jesus was in your life? And it started me thinking about it. And I can't remember a first time. And it sometimes bothers me because people talk about the coming to the rail experience. I have never had that. I have never felt Jesus wasn't in my life, but am I missing something?
I don't think you are at all, Mark. I think different people have different stories. I think it's great when someone has that moment, date, and time that they can tell, and the time they came to the altar, or just a crazy or celebratory experience someone had that they came to know Jesus, maybe a Damascus Road experience as Saul, Paul, people have those. I also grew up in the church, Mark, and I was in church, my mom tells me, from the time I was around 2 weeks old. And so I grew up in the church all my life, and I probably have shared this before, even on the podcast, that my dad used to tell me when I wanted to see my grandparents who had died when he was young, so I never got to meet them. He told me if I just believed in Jesus and believed that one day I'd be reunited and be able to meet my grandparents. And even as a kid, I wanted to believe that. And so all throughout life, I cannot tell you the moment that some people will use the words being saved. And the Greek for that is sozo, and it just means to be made well, to be made whole. And I can't tell you that one moment for you. Well, for me, I should say, but it sounds like you're saying the same thing.
It's the same thing for me. I can't, how do I say this? There are times when Jesus has had a bigger presence in my life.
Yes.
That have been moments where, I know it was there, often on a mission trip in a certain sense. Sometimes, one time I remember that I was in the sanctuary in a church when we were living in California. And a friend and I were cleaning up, and a person came in a great deal of distress in their personal life. And we just stopped and talked. And as we talked, the three of us, there was a presence. There was a presence. And I'm very grateful for those times when that's such a strong link. And the fact that I didn't have a come to Jesus time, maybe it's better. For me, that's the way it worked.
Yeah, I, like you, Mark, can talk about experiences and moments where Jesus' presence was very real to me. And those are the moments that I think keep me going. And I think we should be encouraged each time when we're having a tough day or moment or going through a tough episode in life that we are able to look back in those moments. And I think that's where I hope the question would be is where can you think of the first time that you truly knew Jesus was in your life, or an experience when you were able to recollect and share it with others, that you knew the presence of God was there in your life, the living presence of Jesus.
And there are those times. I'm very grateful for them. I hope many people have those types of experiences.
And again, I think it's up to us to be able to share ours so that other people may know what it looks like. You may not be able to describe it. I've got experiences that I can't put into words fully. And it's one of those, you had to be there. I think you had one of those in a little bit with you going out and seeing the eclipse.
In a way, you're right. I hadn't thought about that way, but it was an awe-inspiring thing.
Where did you go?
I went to Indianapolis. My wife's sister lives there and happened to be right in the middle of the full blackout. And, you read about it gets cooler, it gets darker, the birds quit singing, and it all happened. It all happened. Even the streetlights start coming on.
Wow.
And I got some great pictures.
And I saw some pictures, but even though I think the pictures are remarkable, you were there.
I was there and wearing my glasses.
Yes, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Could see the sun spurts coming off, the shoots of plasma coming out. It was really cool. Yeah. And another thing about it was a lot of my sister-in-law's grandkids were there. So this was obviously the first time they saw it, but to listen to them talk about it and be in awe of just the majesty of the universe that God has put us into, it was awesome.
I have to confess, Mark, I didn't think my daughter, Catherine Grace, would be that excited about it. She's only 3. And my wife, Christy, wanted to make sure that I got her out of the child care here and allowed her to see it. I just didn't think it would be a big deal. So we had a meeting here, and we went outside of Old Drummond, across the road here, parking lot. And I put the glasses on her and held them on and to make sure they'd stay on, and held her head and had her look. And the marvel of a 3-year-old, wow, look, there's the moon, and things like that, just give great thanks that I had to admit my wife was right. I don't usually say I give great thanks for that, but
yeah, in my life, my wife is often right that I don't give great thanks for.
I get it.
You just go along with it.
But I did not think that Catherine would really enjoy it. I thought she wouldn't really even pay attention to it, but she was marveled by the wonders that I believe, the wonders of God's creation.
Sometimes I miss the fact that I'm not a 3-year-old and have that, wow experience on things that to me are just every day. We have to bring that childlike experience back in our lives.
That's right. See, I went off on a ramble there, Mark.
That's okay. That's the name of the game here.
That's right.
Another image that you used in Sunday's sermon that has stuck with me is the image of Jesus coming to breakfast. And I just started expanding on that. If you kind of play it like it happened with Peter, I would be in the shower, or maybe just getting out of the shower, and Jesus would be free enough to come in my house because we're that close and start making breakfast, and I'd walk out and there he would be and run back and get my clothes on. But then to sit down and have a conversation about how do I love Jesus and what does it mean for me in my life in this world? That just has been running in my head all week.
Good.
Some of the questions that come to me is, what does feed my sheep mean? What does tend my lambs, feed my lambs? And I've concluded it doesn't just mean give them food. How do you see it?
Exactly the way you said it, but I'll expand on that.
Ramble a bit.
Ramble a little bit. I think I shared Sunday, hopefully in both services, maybe not. But when I think about for God so loved the world, and that I said something to the effect of, how will God continue to for so love the world? And I said it was through you and me, through the people. And for God so loved the world, that's the resurrection that we need in our world today, is that Jesus gave us the Holy Spirit. He promised that. Even when he was ascended, he said the Comforter, the Advocate, the Spirit, the Helper, all those things live in us. And for God to continue to love the world is for us to feed sheep, to tend the sheep, to care for those, to ask God, ask ourselves, what would break God's heart? And hopefully what breaks God's heart would break ours. And that we won't just stand on the sidelines and say, who's going to do something about that? Or even you hear the thing sometimes, thoughts and prayers.
Too often, actually.
Yeah. And I think the intended meaning of that was not to be harmful. It was to be well-intended thoughts and prayers. But thoughts and prayers are not the action that for God so loved the world that wants us to be about. Jesus said, go.
Go and take my teachings to others.
Feed
Go
my sheep.
and take my love to others.
Tend my lambs.
A thought just came to mind. We were talking about our experience of Jesus in our lives. And it occurs to me that part of feeding Christ's lambs is to carry to others that experience that we have, to talk about it, Don't be standoffish about, can really happen, and it's something I wish you would experience because there's nothing like it.
That's right. And we all have different ways of doing that. There might be someone listening today, Mark, that says, well, I'm not a public speaker, or I'm not an extrovert. I want you to know that all of us have a part. It might be someone that is good at writing cards that I'm not good at it. I'll just tell you. I'm not very good at being that card writer and sending out cards to people. But I can, when I see them, talk with them or let them know. Or I'm also can send a text message or things like that to people. But there are people that might be that feel like they're on the sidelines and they're writing cards to people. And those cards always seem to come at the right time for folks. I hear time and time stories about people that receive cards from people and they're like, wow, I just needed that at the right time. Or there are folks that are willing to get their hands dirty, whether it is working on things, fixing things, going and doing, but they don't want to be in the front to be the spokesperson. They're comfortable being on the sidelines, they think, but how does the work get done without those people?
Well, just standing up and saying to somebody who is doing it, can I help?
Yeah.
Being there doesn't need you to be the person organizing it, but if you can handle a shovel or a hammer or can read a story to a child, that's what you need.
We don't know all the people that go in schools and read a story.
No.
Pastor Tim Halloran, he'd probably be embarrassed by me speaking this, but once a week he goes down and sings to the Early Learning Center kids.
Is that right?
He
does.
I
didn't know that.
And those kids have a great time. And I love when I've happened to walk down and catch him in action, being a big kid and doing that. And we'll talk about it probably more next week, Mark, because we're going to talk about prayer. But I got the opportunity to go and do a blessing for the annual Meals on Wheels luncheon this past week. And I'm glad I got to do those kind of things because then I see all the people that are out there, whether they even, hopefully they do, that they see they're doing God's work, but all the volunteers that are needed to deliver meals to those people who need it. Again, Jesus said, feed those who are hungry. And this is more than feeding those who are hungry. It's relationships are built and made by the people that are coming to the door.
And they're important to the people whose door that they're going to.
Exactly.
It's more than just the food.
I don't know all the volunteers that do that, but they're out there going, and many of them are pretty anonymous to the rest of our community. But there are right now about 120 clients in Monongalia County receiving Meals on Wheels.
Actually, that number surprises me as being way lower.
Yes.
Than I would have thought.
I bet there are more, and they do need more volunteers. And so,
there you go. Maybe the limitation is not the food, just the people to carry it to them.
Yeah. So if anybody's in the Morgantown area and hearing this and wants to volunteer, we'd love to hear from you because I took a bunch of forms that were left on the table and brought them here for people to be able to pick up because I really believe that's doing God's work.
And it's an easy way to do it. I mean,
it's if you like to drive and
meet people,
and it's not something you have to have a long conversation doing.
No training.
Yeah, you're able to drive and drop off a meal and with a smile.
I have one more thing I wanted to bring up to you, and then that was the way Jesus responded to Peter. You made a pretty strong point of it, that despite all that Peter had done, and he had done a lot, he said, I will go to you to the grave, go with you to the grave.
He did.
And immediately, almost instantaneously, denied him 3 times. And even after seeing the empty tomb, he ran back and was excited. But what did he do? He went back to fishing. He didn't go out.
To his whole job.
He didn't go back. He didn't go out preaching what he had learned from Christ. He went and kind of retreated. And Jesus didn't admonish him, did not have he said, do you love me? Feed my people. And the power of that level of grace that we all have, if we just take it and ask for it, is amazing to me.
I've really enjoyed this series, Figuring Out Faith with Peter, Wandering Hearts. I really have, because Peter is just an example of so many people that from that hymn we sing, come thou fount of every blessing, prone to wander, prone to leave the God we love. And Peter loved Jesus. He was his friend. He spent time and did a lot of work with him. And Peter, he went back to fishing. I do think that probably Peter was going back and trying to recount his thoughts, do something he was familiar with, and maybe in hope that Jesus would appear again. And he did. And what a way to say, let's have breakfast.
Yeah.
Let's have breakfast. And I just think there's so many opportunities in our community and beyond to just say, well, let's have coffee. Let's have breakfast.
Let's just talk.
Let's just talk. And that's why I love what we do right now, each and every week. Let's just talk. And hopefully those that are listening can see we're just having a conversation, bantering, having fun, and but also hoping in the meanwhile that people are seeing the love of Jesus. And he just wants to know, as we asked the congregation before we left Sunday, I didn't let everybody off the hook. At the benediction, I said, do you love Jesus? And the first answer was, I don't think anybody was ready for that. So I'll give them grace.
Give them a second opportunity.
Yeah. So just like Peter got a second chance, said, do you love Jesus? It got a little stronger. On the third time, when I asked the congregation, do you love Jesus? It was bold. So I hope now the boldness that Easter brings and the resurrection story that we are as Easter people, that we can recall again what we just answered. Do you love me? Jesus says. And we said, yes. You know I do, Lord.
Yeah, we can look forward to the weeks of Pentecost.
That's
with
right.
With that in our heart and in our heads, we will. It'll be a good 50 days.
Great 50 days of Easter, heading us toward Pentecost, and got a lot of exciting things happening. Some kids going to be baptized and confirmed in our church and become full members of the church. And I'm sure all around other churches will be doing the same if haven't already during this season. And so one thing I want to mention really quick, Mark, is that, several weeks ago, you asked me who I had in the bracket for the NCAA tournament.
Oh, yeah. And?
I got the women right.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I picked South Carolina, but, they were the number one seed and undefeated, so most people probably picked South Carolina.
Even though your loyalties were not totally with them?
Right. And it was a great tournament. Iowa, who defeated West Virginia in the tournament. West Virginia gave them one of their better games. Yep. And even Caitlin Clark actually mentioned that West Virginia and Connecticut defended her the best before the South Carolina game. So that was really neat. But I did not pick UConn to win the national championship. I had them in it, but I did not pick them to win it. I had Tennessee winning, and they lost a couple games before that. So it was a fun tournament. And NCAA basketball is now over until the next season. And so now I'm watching WVU baseball, and they're tied for first place in the Big 12 right now.
I was going to mention that. They are tied for first place.
So by the time you're listening to this, let's hope that's continuing on. But I'm excited about spring. And even though we've had some crazy storms around the area and in our state, and so I'm praying for the people affected by those storms today.
I'm done with my questions. What else do you want to let the people know before we sign off?
Oh, like I said, I'm just excited about the season, Mark. I'm glad that you had a great experience of seeing the eclipse and seeing family. I'm glad that I didn't take it for granted and got Catherine Grace involved and got to see the marvel of that. I'm grateful for the experiences we've been having here at the church with Easter and seeing the many people coming and celebrating the risen Lord. And I'm looking forward, Mark, to our next series called The Playbook. And during that playbook, we're going to talk about the different ways that we as people of God have the opportunity to fully live out what I believe is our vision and call, not only here at Suncrest United Methodist Church, but in our community and our world. And we're going to start out by talking about Teach Me How to Pray.
I look forward to it. I really do.
Thank you, Mark. And I hope that everyone else will be looking forward and sharing our podcast and share it and let other people know that if you're enjoying it, to take a listen and come and see.
Come and see us on a Sunday. We'd love to have you.
And if you're out of town, you can find us online at suncrestumc.org or on our Facebook page. So I want to wish everybody a great week. Until next time, Mark.
Until next time, Larry.
Have a great week.
You too.